podcast is hosted monthly by John Kenny, CEO of Cotney Consulting Group and one of our incubator program sponsors. The incubator program was designed to partner emerging companies in the construction sector with mentors who will guide them to success. We will cover go-to-market strategies, operations and controlled growth, scaling, and more. This information is from our incubator program's hands-on training. We hope you enjoy the podcast.
All right, well, welcome everybody to our third episode in this series with Furman Insurance. And today we're joined by Tyler, and we're going to discuss EMRs. So Tyler, give us a little introduction, and then I got a couple questions for you.
Absolutely. So thank you, John, for having me. And essentially, I'm Tyler with Furman Insurance, specialized in the construction industry with a subspecialization of roofing contractors. So, but essentially, anyways, I think we're going to have an interesting conversation today about experience mods, and let John get into some questions here, and hopefully find this helpful, because it could definitely be a good financial tool to help reduce work comp premiums. So
sure. I mean, I know, and you know what an experience modification rate, and we talk about it as an EMR in the industry that's really used an initial. But for our viewers out there, whether they're new, been in a little while, what exactly is an EMR and what does it do in a company?
Certainly. So I look at an EMR to simplify. It's almost like your credit score for work comp purposes. And it's a result of it. It's a factor that's established by NCCI, the National Council on Compensation Insurance. And it's a number that follows you around from carrier to carrier and has an impact on the premium. So it starts off at a 1.0 experience mod. That means no better, no worse than the state rates. As your experience mod gets better, it drops. So 0.99, 0.98, and so on. The lower your experience mod is, the lower premiums you're going to pay. It's a factor that's taken in. If you take standard premium, comes that experience mod factor. Anything under a 1.0 is a credit. Anything above a 1.0 is a debit. And no matter what work comp carrier you go to, just like your credit score, it follows you around. And it's a function of your losses, right, but premiums you've paid in. So it's a calculation that's not that simple. There's other factors which we'll talk about here today that go into what develops an experience mod. But anything lower than 1.0, you're going to be saving money. Anything higher, you start to get debited and paying a higher rate than what the state rates actually are. So based on your performance, there's an opportunity to save or pay more on your work comp insurance.
So if I was a brand new startup coming into this, then I would expect I'm going to start out at a 1, right? They're going to give me the benefit of the doubt, and we're going to be right on average in the industry. And then depending on how I perform over the upcoming years, whether I'm going to stay a 1 or go below, hopefully start working my way down the ladder, not up the ladder. In this case, lower's better, higher's worse, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, so that is important. I know you're going to get into a couple other little topics here, but EMR, I think, is a scary topic in most companies. I think there's very few people below upper management that actually understand this. And I think it's a shame if you're a larger company out there listening, you want to get this broadcasted all the way down so your estimators understand it, your sales team understands it. It's a great sales tool when you start, especially if you're one of the fortunate few to get down below that 0.8. And there's a few out there in the industry that are lower than that. And, it shows you have a great safety record, you're trustworthy, and you're going to do a good job based on your safety status. So again, this is something that you should celebrate, provided you're below that 1.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
So, what is doing like an analysis of this, what is, the impact of a claims when these EMRs vary on your workman's comp policy? So, what kind of run us through a little bit. If I was your new client coming in, how would you sell me on the impact of having a good safety program? Why this is important? What will I benefit out of it?
Yeah, and so, John, just as well as I do right now in the industry, for many of our contractors, insurance costs could be the third or fourth line item. And as they're looking through, so you have labor, materials, and then For a lot of our contractors, insurance costs could be third. So work comp costs being one of the heavier indicators, and an EMR being the main driver of what your work comp costs are going to be. As you know, in the industry, in the work comp world, without getting into captives and dividend programs and other functions of a work comp program, the state set the rates. Every single contractor is on the same playing field. So when we talk about our clients helping them gain a competitive advantage over their peers and driving down one of the only controllable costs that they have in their top 5 expenses, because materials aren't going to shift very much. Labor certainly isn't going to shift very much, and the rest of the industry is going to be on a fairly equal playing field with that. We look at controllable costs. The safer company you are, the lower your experience mod is going to be, the less you're going to pay from a work comp standpoint. How do they get that? Right. So it's a function in that program. In EMR is a function of the more premium that you pay in. So a smaller contractor, an accident is going to impact their experience mod a lot more. And a larger contractor, it's built in. There's an expected loss ratio for every dollar that's paid in premium. So in a roofing class code versus a clerical class code, you looked at an office and where they're only paying $2,000 in work comp premium versus a roofing contractor that may be paying $80,000. They're expecting that roofing contractor to have more losses. So more premium dollars you paid in. If you have losses, it's not to scare anyone out there that you're going to automatically be paying more than your peers. If you're building up large premium based on your payroll, it is all right to have losses here and there, but there's factors that go into the experience model we can talk about here today, and that we can go in depth a lot. If anybody has any further questions afterwards, you want to reach out, that go into it, such as a claim being held to medical only versus indemnity. Indemnity being brought into a claim has a 70% greater impact on the experience mod than a claim being kept to medical only. So that indemnity portion could be lost wages that employee may. So they can talk with the work comp carrier, and you as the contractor can talk with the work comp carrier to say, hey, we'd like you to handle the medical portion. We want to be upfront with our carrier and submit this claim. We want you guys to know what's going on, but we only suspect that they're going to be out for 2 to 3 weeks, and we'd like to cover the costs of the indemnity portion of the claim to help preserve our experience mod. We're always upfront with our clients and the carriers and let them know what we're doing and why, because you don't want the carrier to then, you don't want the employee double dipping and saying, hey, you're paying their lost wages, and also the work comp carriers. So you got to communicate. But there's a lot of other factors that go into how the experience modification rate is computed. It's not just, hey, we have a claim, let work comp take care of it. We're not involved in this. We're not trying to manage what we have going on. But then you don't want the other side where it's, hey, we're going to pay everything out of pocket and not let our work comp carrier know, because there's other negative things that come with that. One could be late reporting fees. And also by law, you're required to, that employers in need of medical assistance, to let your work comp carrier know. So
no, that's a great explanation. I'd like to jump on the contractors always love to talk about sales, right? And that's a key focus, and it has to be, and I understand that. So I'd like to kind of tie this in a little bit. We talked a little bit about you using it in your sales and understanding it, but especially in today's market, if you're doing new construction, or even if you're doing private work that has a pre-qualification process, which more and more private companies are requiring the pre-qualification process to limit their exposure to risk, EMR comes big into play. You can actually be disqualified from bidding on a project if you have too high of an EMR. So that's why I say this is a very, very important aspect of managing your business, more than just saying, oh, experience modification rate, yeah, I'm here or no. This affects so much of your financial strength, your ability to do work. And also, too, tie into what you said about the indemnifying the salaries and the wages. I know when I was in the industry, I get questions to say, how come you have a roofer sitting at the conference table going through files or filing paper? Well, because we had a light duty back to work program with the insurance carrier that allowed, if they were cleared, they would be medically cleared to do X, But it was, again, as you said, it was cheaper for us to pay that person than it was to have it, affect the entire mod rate for the company. So these are things I think they should keep in mind too with the light duty back to work programs.
Yes, yes. And it's not just next year's premium. They look at a 3-year period. It skips the most recent term for loss development because, of course, you could have a loss a day before your policy expired. You may not know where that claim's heading. So the most prior year is skipped in the experience modification rate factor. And so it looks at the 3 prior years. So the 2022 mod would skip the 21 year and look at the 20, 19, and 18 year. So 3-year period. So any losses that hit your experience mod, that sticks with you for 3 years. So it's not just a 1-year impact, it's 3.
That's a big ding, and that's why I think a lot of contractors don't realize that. So overall, you're looking at a 4-year impact because you're jumping back a year. So what you did 4 years ago is going to affect where you're going to be currently and next year. And
Yes.
then it drops off a year. But so, if you have something in each year, you'll be forever getting out of it.
Yes, absolutely.
So this is on the kind of tying this all in, do you have any tips, recommendations, or any kind of pointers for contractors on managing this?
Yeah. And so with all our clients, we recommend getting in touch with your agent and them being involved from the first step in a claim together. We have a program, it's called ModMaster. So when we sit down, we can actually break out because we don't have a crystal ball and know where that claim's going to head. But we could sit down and say, okay, if this is a $5,000 claim kept to medical only, this is the impact it'll have on your experience mod. If it's $5,000 with medical and indemnity, here's the impact, and so on. We could look at different loss levels for over 50K and go back and forth. But the managing the claim from the beginning, when you submit a work comp claim, get with your agent, get with the carrier. It's be submitted directly to the carrier, and then you get with your agent to say, okay, Tyler, how do we minimize this impact? As you mentioned, back to work programs. There's a frequency and versus a severity. Some claims are capped. One large loss on your experience mod rate may have a different impact than 3 medium level losses or 5 small losses and 1 large loss, or just 5 small losses. So they look at frequency and severity in the experience mod factor. But when we get with our clients, what they could and should do is definitely speak with their agent, look at, and if possible at all, pay the indemnity portion of the claim, keep the claim to medical only. Get them returned on a light duty job. So as you mentioned, if they do get hurt, they may not be able to, there'd be a doctor's note that says, hey, here's their limitations. Maybe it says no lifting over 40 pounds. So getting them in the office, whatever they can do to help, paperwork, some office filing, whatever it could be, getting them back to work stops the bleeding of the work comp claim. That employee has the ability to at least be in the office doing light duty. He should be working and not sitting at home milking the work comp system and further running up your experience mod rate. And so next to that, safety controls. And we're involved with our clients from the very beginning. And as you mentioned, experience mod getting up to a certain point could have an impact on their ability to get future jobs. You're submitting this, it's like a credit score. And so when they see that this company has a 1.5 experience mod and they've had this many losses, that tells them, hey, you're underperforming compared to the premium dollars you're paying in, and having a mix of both frequency and severity claims. You're not as safe as a company as this person with a significant credit experience mod. So having from day one, it's leading with upper management, a safety program and protocols that are in place. The less accidents, the better the experience mod's going to be. But again, even the safest of the safest company, you can't engineer the risk out of the roofing industry. Stuff happens and there are mistakes no matter how good a safety protocols you're following. So with that, managing a claim once it's submitted with your insurance agent is one great way to continue to, even if you have losses, to help your experience mod.
Yeah, now speaking from my experience when I was on the contracting side, especially in the COO position, larger companies, you spend more time managing claims and risks than you do anything else, but it has such a large impact as you just stated. And I want to tie into your safety program. That's an absolute must. You have to have a solid safety program because you're going to have not only the implications coming from the higher rates, you've got OSHA issues. When you combine all of those together, it can be a financial death blow to your company. Plus, as a roofing contractor or any other contractor, you want everyone to go home safe. That has to be your number one goal. And as you said, Tyler, there is no way of getting the risk out of it. As the best safety program, the best safety company, they still can have an accident. It happens. But if you have all this in place, you're going to limit your risk compared to if you didn't. So you need to spend the money, have a proper plan, have the proper safety and training, retraining, and everything else goes with it. And I think, and again, I agree with this from being on the other side. Work tightly with your agent. I think that is the most important thing you can do. You guys know, you really do. This is one of those you can't really guess on or figure out. Managing a claim can save you a point or, percentage points on these EMR ratings if you do them properly compared to, the old head in sand principle, which never works out very well.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And it really is. It's something that this experience mod that can be a vital part in a difference in a financial impact of a company, because the larger you get, the more of an impact it has. And so somebody bidding a job that has a 0.55 experience mod and is getting a 45% credit on one of their larger expenses, and another person has a 0.5 that's paying 50% above. That's a big difference when you're bidding a job, knowing you've got to build in and factor in those work comp costs into it. So, but safety being number one, and not just your own safety, the safety of your subcontractors and the program, as we talked about last month on the podcast, I believe, with PEOs.
Yeah,
making sure your subs are covered correctly, because there's absolutely nothing that could feel more defeating to somebody doing everything the right way, and you have a standalone work comp policy that covers subs, and you have a sub that didn't have the right coverage and their employee got injured. That's going to impact your EMR if their coverage did not kick in and step up as the way it should. So downstream risk transfer again on the work comp side could have an impact on your experience mod. So
now all great points. I want to just let everybody know we got 3 more coming up in this series. I just kind of give you a little heads up what we got coming. Claim analytics to identify trends. That's a very important one that's coming up next month. And then insurance audit review and consultation. I know everybody's out there thinking insurance audits and reviews are very similar to going to the dentist. It's something you have to do and it's an awful process. No, actually, it can be a very fulfilling process if you do it correctly, which I know you're going to have some great tips. It's kind of like getting the money back on your IRS taxes. If you do it correctly, there's, there could be something there. And then, most importantly at the end is how to establish, surety credit. We're going to get into the surety bonding market at the end, which as you grow as a contractor, you absolutely will run into that. And there's a lot on it. With that, I'm going to give you last word on this topic, and then I believe we will be closing out the wonderful world of EMR ratings.
Yes, absolutely. And this is, again, like most other topics, we could go on and on, but I just share, you have our information. My email is tyler@furmaninsurance.com. If you have any questions at all regarding experience mods, you can go into some of the factors that are involved, other than just pure losses and how they impact you, but other tips, controls we could have in place and how you claims should be handled after the fact. More than happy to talk about it. It is important. It's important in the bidding process. It's important financially for your company. And again, as you mentioned, most importantly, your employees going home safe and being taken care of properly. So it all factors into the experience mod, and we're here to help if need be.
Excellent. Well, I thank you for your time again today. It was a great episode, and I want to thank everybody out there for listening. I was telling Tyler in the beginning, the amount of views that we've seen as the series is going on are amazingly increasing faster than I could hope, which is what I mean by that is I'm glad to see it, because this is information that is so important. That's why we do these incubator programs, to get this information out to the contracting world on how to do things the right way. So with that being said, I want to thank everybody for joining us again, and we'll catch you next month. Bye now.